Absolutely.
And then this is not it.
Right, this is not it. Let's talk about Joaquin and the very latest with the storm, because if you're just looking at this, you're saying, okay, you guys have misplaced this icon, right? But it's not true. The circulation on the north side of this, I want you to kind of take a look here at our satellite imagery, because you can see this flow. That's the ridge that's sitting over the southeastern United States. That's giving us a little bit of wind shear, making this thing lopsided. That's why you'll notice all that convection on the southeast side of the storm. Winds right now 40 miles an hour. Here's the thing with Joaquin. This thing is just going to kind of stir out here near the Bahamas, perhaps gain some strength. It's a possibility. But look at how wide the miles on this cone of error are tremendous. I mean, we've got the possibility of Sunday morning having a 65-mile-an-hour storm on Cape Hatteras or all the way out here in the Atlantic. And that is what's so crucial here, the scenarios that are playing out. We've got to get to Jen and Jim for that northeast forecast. We want to get you this because we know that this is kind of a tricky one over the next several days. A lot of rain in the forecast. Tricky one for you. I know it's going to hamper a lot of outdoor activities for your kids, and they're going to be cooped up inside for a while. Now, temperatures aren't bad. We're 80 degrees for a high today in New York. You've got the 80s in the nation's capital, but look at this just persistent, heavy, tropical rainfall that's just going to be, it's a very juicy atmosphere, and that goes all the way ahead looking into your weekend. You'll notice that, you know, even going long term here, we still have that rain in the forecast. And the question is, you know, like what does this add up to? Some of these spots are going to see possibly some street flooding. That's absolutely not out of the question. We could see even worse flooding than that, but we want to get a little local insight on that first.
Yeah, let's take a look at what we're dealing with here when it comes to this rain and flood threat across.
Yeah, that's the good news that I have over here. You know, we are watching the Gulf. Obviously, we're watching a couple different features that have really impacted our forecast as of late. So let's talk about it. We're going to start first with this upper level low, this dip in the jet stream that's driving some of that drier air, giving you a little break along the Texas coast, Louisiana coast. You desperately need it right now, but you'll notice we still have a lot of just tropical moisture sitting over the southeast. So that's still being pumped in thanks to Invest 99L. That's one of the features that's got this tropical moisture rising in the atmosphere, creating these thunderstorms. Look at our water vapor imagery. You can see exactly what we're talking about here with that trough. Look at this. Clearing out Texas, but soaking Georgia, Florida. You're just under this tremendous amount of moisture. This is more than your typical Florida thunderstorms. These are definitely going to feel tropical today. So you're in for a soaker from the Panhandle all the way down to the Keys. And you know what? This is also a soaker, and it has been days of rain relentlessly in the southeast. It's still not out of here. You still have a lot of rain in North Georgia. Heading up into Tennessee today, a little worried about some flooding potential there.
You have the heavy rain, you have the drizzle, which is just been unending lately. Now, that invest that Kate was talking about continues to soak the Gulf Coast with the heavy rains, with all the moisture associated with it. It's been a third straight day from that. And then we've got another foot of rain for areas on the Panhandle. You know, we had 5 inches a day, one day in Panama City Beach. Watch what's next, Kate.
Right. What's next? You know, how is this going to play into all that? We're going to get into that in a minute. But first, I wanted to give you an update on Joaquin, because we definitely have a lot of convection on the southern side of this storm, not so much right around the center. But that center actually still holding strong. It looks pretty good at the surface. So this could deepen quite a bit over the Bahamas. Some of those computer models taking it that way. The European model caught my eye, but again, that's one model run, so just, you know, take it with a grain of salt. We're looking at a consensus forecast here, and there is no consensus, I'll tell you that. Not very much. Look at this cone of error, how wide it is at the end. The center of circulation could be on land, it could be over Delmarva, or it could be way out here, and that totally changes the forecast. I think regardless, Jen, we just need to focus on rain potential and impacts more than, you know, the nuances of will this be tropical or not.
Right, exactly. Well, there's definitely going to be impacts. So
where the business weather comes in, right? Paul Walsh would love this, because this means this big blue area behind the cold front, that means all the pumpkin spice lattes going to be going through the roof. Get ready for that. Order more cups, Starbucks. They will descend on you. Here's what we've got going on. That cooler air definitely moving in. You're going to feel it later on this week. Chicago, you're even going to get that flow off the lake. It's going to feel great. Look at this. Temperatures 5 to 10 degrees below average across the Great Lakes and even stretching into the Northeast. Now today, here's the deal. You're above average. It's warm. It's sticky. Jen and I have been talking about this. I mean, it just feels like you're wearing like a coat of moisture when you walk outside. Now it is going to be rainy for you whenever these temperatures fall, so I don't want you to think that it's going to be that nice, cool, crisp feeling, but you are going to be in the week below average. New York City could be 12 degrees below average. DC 14 degrees below average. So get your chili recipe out, get it ready, get the crock pot ready for later on this week and heading into the weekend. Tomorrow, that cooler air starts to filter down into the Appalachians, and we are going to see a little bit of a cool down there. And then you'll notice even North Georgia getting into Atlanta there, 8 degrees below average by Thursday at only 70 degrees.
All right, looking forward to that. But right now, what we're dealing with is some flooding. We've got emergency crews responding to reports of flooded roads and stranded drivers in parts of the South. Heavy rain and flash floods hit High Point, North Carolina earlier today, just outside of Greensboro.
Do, Jen, whenever you look at the satellite imagery, but winds still sustained at 85 miles an hour. So we still have some pretty gusty winds. Nothing like what we saw in Taiwan whenever this made landfall, its first landfall. And we saw it come in here and it had wind gusts of 156 miles an hour. We still are seeing some impacts in China. That's definitely still going on for us. And we are going to be concerned about flooding. Obviously, look at all that water that came down. It has to go somewhere. Look at what's happening right now. Let's kind of touch on what's happening in the tropics. We have our tropical storm Marty in the eastern Pacific there, just on the western edge of Mexico. Not to mention Invest 99L hanging out in the Big Bend of Florida. Tropical storm Joaquin, which has some impacts on our forecast coming up, and we have our next Invest 90L. So what are we talking about first? This 10% chance on Invest 99L. We're not anticipating that this will become tropical. Too many things working against it, like the fact that it's already interacting a lot with the land, and that's causing a lot of flood concerns. Look at Tallahassee. You're about to get soaked, and it's days of rain for Florida as well. These soaking downpours have been moving across the state. You can tell that they're not just like these big thunder boomers that, you know, dump a lot of rain and then move on. This is more prolonged rain events and slow moving. So look at what happens as this stretches into Tennessee. That's someplace that we could see some flood concerns today. Obviously, we have them ongoing in North Carolina and Virginia. You had concerns over the weekend as well. Those coastal flood issues, you still have more rain coming down. Take a look at what we're predicting as far as the future of this moisture goes and where exactly it goes. Notice it's just kind of a freckling on the radar, and that's just kind of telling you, hey, this computer model is trying to get its act together. It doesn't know exactly where these showers and thunderstorms will initialize, but we are expecting to see more of them, more downpours across Alabama, Georgia today, and then stretching up into the Northeast. That is just where our deluge of water is on this first kind of hit there. Okay, so that's our tropical nature with 99L, but now we've got Joaquin. The center of circulation, not exactly under all that convection, doesn't mean that this thing doesn't have a chance to strengthen, but it's kind of threading a needle when it comes to wind shear. The thing is this moves north. Here's the big question, right? Look at this trough, this really strong shear. That's along with this cold front in the coming days. It's going to help pick up some of this moisture likely. It looks like pretty, look at the model spread here. Isn't this ridiculous? You see this? Oop. I mean, it is just a mess of a forecast. You know, if we get Joaquin caught up with on the outer edge of some of this wind shear, it can actually help it strengthen really quickly, but then you just have a couple miles more to the west and you could completely dissipate that storm, get it torn apart by that high wind shear, Jen. So it is just like